Test, test. Are we live? If we're live, which I think we are, this is the first time we went live. We're going to just make sure everything's firing. If it is, we're going to start this thing off. If you are watching on the recording, if you're watching this on the recording, it'll all be edited out. So if you're watching this on the live, exciting to experience the first with you. Oh, yeah, we're live. All right, let's do it. If we haven't met before, my name is Ryan Clark. I'm the co-owner of HomeCareGrow.io. On today's live, what we're going to do is answer the question, what payer type should you be targeting in your ads? Veterans, Medicaid family caregivers, or private pay? This is obviously going to come down to one main thing, what's your return on investment? And a lot of that boils down to what is your LTV or lifetime value per customer. The other piece is going to be what you are already proficient in. So that is in regards to the sales process. So let's get into some numbers. We're going to answer that question. High level, the way I like to think of this is there's two parts to making your ads work. The first thing you need is leads, obviously. And there's two parts. You need lead quality, but you also need lead volume. On the other side, you have the sales system. You need to have the right sales process to convert these leads, and you need the right sales people. With all of that complete, you can make or should be able to make paid ads work. The thing that's going to make them go even better is making the most from each customer you bring in. So that's the question we're going to ask, or the answer that we're going to provide today. So this is what we do with each one of our clients. We go through a simple agency growth calculator that we created. Now, typically the agency owners that we work with can accept more than one payer type. So it's usually not just private pay, not just Medicaid, or not just veterans. If you can only accept one, well, that decision makes it extremely easy. Makes the decision extremely easy. I will talk a little bit about who you should target in the ads as well, depending on your most valuable payer type, but let's go in order. So I'm going to base this just off of averages. Of course, this is going to be unique to your business, but let's start private pay. So we're going to base all of this off 100 leads and a pretty conservative 16% of leads closed. So first, let's calculate LTV or lifetime value per client. This is how much a client will pay you over the time they're with you. So for private pay, I've seen a range anywhere from people say 6 months all the way up to 3 years. For the exact person that we target for private pay, typically the least I hear about is a year. And the reason being is we target the eldest daughter that is just starting to experience the decline with their parents. So they're not at the point where it's like, oh my God, I got to do something now. They're getting discharged from the hospital. They're way earlier in the buying process, which is a benefit to you because then you can target a lot more of them because there's a lot more people there than, oh my God, I need help right now. So they're just starting to experience the parent that is unsteady on their feet. They're missing medications. They know they need help. They just don't know where to start, or if the right answer is in-home care or a home or whatever it might be. But to get some projections in place, we're going to say about a year. Hours per client per week. Again, big ranges here. We usually see people start at around 15 to 20 hours a week, but then, of course, over the 3 years, that can scale up quite high with maybe 20 to 30% of those cases becoming a 24/7 client for a short time. Others just being in the sweet spot, that 15 to 25 hours for years and years. But we'll be conservative here. We're just going to say 1 year, hours per client per week. We're going to say on average over that year, even if they start lower, they ramp up to maybe 30, 35. So let's just say 25. And hourly rate on that, obviously, it's going to depend on you, but we're going to just say 32. So that puts the lifetime value per client at about $41,600 per new client on average. Of course, there's variance. You're going to get some clients who get started and 3 months in, right, fade out. You're going to have other clients that stay for 6 years. But we're just trying to get an average here because whenever we're making money decisions, it's on averages. Okay, let's go to Medicaid. So let's just assume that the agency we're talking about here can accept all three. So Medicaid, we usually see is going to range from 3 years all the way up to 6+. We have some agencies that it's 7 years on average. Now, these are agencies that have been around 21 plus years, so they have the data. Now, specifically who we target for Medicaid is a family caregiver. Why? The reason we target a family caregiver is, number one, they stay just as long as someone who you provide the caregiver for. Number two, you don't need to staff the caregiver. So they have the same LTV, potentially even a higher LTV, and they're easier for you to manage. Sounds like a match made in heaven. So that's who we target for family caregivers. Usually we see, again, very conservatively, 3 years is the stick. Hours per week, of course, going to range. Usually we see is about 25 over those 3 years. And again, if this starts going up to 4, which is more of an average, you can see these numbers jump. And then hourly rate per client is going to depend where you are. The lowest I've seen is in Texas, where actually some of our most successful Medicaid family caregiver clients are at $17.50 an hour, as you can see up here. Or maybe you can't see that, but this is rounded. But you can put that in for you. I know in, I believe it's Oregon, it's like $34 an hour, right? I know we all got to move to Oregon. But obviously this would depend on you. I'm just going to base it again off of low cases here. And then we look at, so anyway, lifetime value per client, about $68,000. Now, what we'll look back on in a second, and once we do veterans too, is obviously you need to equate for your gross profit. Medicaid might be a higher total LTV than private pay, but if your gross profit on private pay is 50% and you're looking at, say, $20,000 lifetime gross profit per client, and on Medicaid, let's just say in this example, it's, well, I mean, even at 30%, right? Even at 30% gross, you're still looking at, bear with me, about 20,000. So actually it does make it about even. But this is why it's so important to know your numbers. All right, then last one, let's look at veterans. Now, I will say typically between Medicaid, private pay, and veterans is always the winner. And typically it's because they pay as much as a private pay client, sometimes more, and they stay as long as the Medicaid client. So it's like, if you can accept a veteran, usually it's pretty sweet. So again, we usually see 3 years all the way up to 6+. We're just going to be conservative and say 3. Now, the thing that is lower is hours per client per week. We do find, because we're targeting people at the very beginning, people that don't even know they qualify for VA benefits. In a lot of cases, they'll start at 10-ish hours a week, but they'll just stay forever, which is nice. And I say forever, right? Like, we're going to base it off 3 years. So let's just say it's $44 an hour, 10 hours a week. That puts LTV, or lifetime value per client, at about $68,000. Now, if our gross margins are the same, let's run gross margins on this really quick. We'll just do some simple math, right? That times 0.5, which is pretty common. I just have to change the, let me put this in here, the formatting so it's the same, so it looks nice and pretty for you. Ooh, that's nice. So we'll say gross profit here is about 50%. Here, we're going to say it's a bit less. We're going to say it's about, let's just say 30%. I think that's pretty fair. And veterans, typically on the high side too, we're going to say it's about 50%. So when we're comparing gross profit on the campaign from the same 100 leads, right? So you get 100 leads, 20K is your gross profit. Medicaid, 100 leads, 20K is your gross profit. Veterans, 100 leads, veterans is 34,000. Now, typically, there's always going to be a winner. There's always going to be a front runner. So that's the first thing you have to determine is, what is my lifetime value per client, and also what is my lifetime gross profit per client? So then the next question starts going into, how much are these leads costing me? Now, if you're running your own campaigns, you're going to have to figure that out. For the agencies that we work with, I mean, there's such a large range. It is staggering how big of a range there is. In some markets, using the same campaigns, we've seen, let's use a Medicaid campaign. We can see a qualified lead for, $25 or $30. In others, it's like $100. So it's like 3x, sometimes more. Now, what we've done is taken the risk out of it for our clients, where we essentially say, hey, look, we're good at what we do. We're going to spread the risk across our clients. We're going to guarantee 100 qualified leads in this example, right? So regardless of whether it costs us $30 a lead or $130 a lead, you will be able to rest assured during a 16-week campaign, you're going to get your 100 leads so that you can have something solid to base your projections off of. and our clients seem to like it. So in this case, we would say veterans. Now, the other thing that we want to consider is obviously you can accept these people, right? So like you don't want to run a veterans campaign unless you already have a veterans contract and you can essentially walk people through the process. They can choose you as their provider for the VA, right? I think that goes without being said, but I'm going to say it. I said it anyway. But the other thing to consider is what the people on your team are already used to doing. So I'll use this as an example. We have a lot of Medicaid agencies that are sometimes hurt by some type of changes in their state. And they say, I'm not doing Medicaid anymore. I want to do private pay. Now, we can help them because we have a cold traffic sales process for private pay that we can train them on. But, and this is a big but, there's a learning curve for them and their team. Think about it. If you have 0 private pay clients and you are not used to servicing and selling this higher value, let's just say, or higher tier, let's just say, higher tier client, there's a learning curve attached to that. These are people that have a very high standard in many cases. And if you're used to dealing with Medicaid clients that are using a free service with you that they're not paying for, it can take a little bit longer to get used to that. So typically, depending on, unless they're really dead set on private pay, we typically say, hey, look, you are already used to this clientele for the last 10 years. You know how to talk with them, you know the ins and outs of Medicaid, you can walk them through the process. Our recommendation is stay where you are so you have a higher likelihood of success. Now, of course, that's going to be based client to client on why they want to get out and if they want to move and things like that. Because again, there's 2 parts of this process high level. There's lead quality and lead volume. You need that obviously for the lead side. But on the other side, you need sales process and sales people. And just because we can give you the sales process that we've taken for each campaign as the accumulation of 70 plus agencies that we've worked with, taking best practices from all of them. And then also we have our daily sales training where we can train your team. Great, but they still have to do it. They still have to be good. And what are they going to be better at? Sharpening the sword that they've already created over the last few years for that payer type, for like Medicaid, or doing something completely new. And it's usually not the latter. But that's something that obviously you have to make the decision on. So hopefully that makes sense. This is our first live stream, so I wouldn't imagine we have any questions or anyone's really watching. So that's fine. But the only other thing that comes into mind here is timeline. So when is it a good time to run ads? You always want to make sure that you have the right expectations in place to have a successful campaign. For the type of traffic that we're targeting, which is cold traffic, these are people that are not being referred to you. The sales cycle for a warm referral could be 7 days. Very fast, right? And the intake process is completely different. It's very targeted. It's very like, let's just start your care. Here's the rates. Whereas with cold traffic, there's a lot more trust that needs to be built and there's a lot more pain that needs to be dug into to create urgency for that lead to make the decision to take the next step, which is usually the in-home assessment. So the reason I bring that up is because whether it's a Medicaid campaign or a veterans campaign, even though you're still offering a free service to the client and you're being reimbursed by the state government, essentially, there's still that 30 to 45 day authorization process. So that means you need at least 6 weeks of cash to float your campaign before you start making any money back. Where we like to project is 90 days, right? So that way you know for sure. So you only want to invest enough money, you only want to invest the money that you are okay not seeing for 90 days. And that's if you get it right. If you're doing it on your own, obviously there's going to be a big learning curve. Me and my partner, so like I've been running ads since I've been 22, right? And I know I look not a day over 22, but I've been running ads for 11 years for my businesses, starting with brick and mortar gyms and then going to online weight loss coaching. And between my partner and I, we've spent $5 million to generate $40 million in revenue. So I'm not the same marketer that I was 11 years ago. A lot of learnings that have come along with that. So either A, it's a pro and a con. It's like you can work with someone, like us, that has experience, but you're going to pay them for their service, right? Let's say you pay someone, I don't know, let's use easy math, $5,000 a month as a service for all that knowledge and all the setup, and then you pay $5,000 in ad spend. So realistically, you need to be ready to, I almost said you need to be ready to lose 30K, but you're not losing it. You just need to be ready to float like $30,000 for over 90 days, whether it's with us or not, like anyone, to be able to get a result. Because if you're going into something like with us or any other vendor that you're expecting return within 2 weeks or a month, you're gonna be upset. And I tell you this because of just conversations I've had with agency owners that are expecting a very fast result. This is not referrals. The majority of agency owners that I've talked to have built their agency up to 3 to 6 million a year, sometimes more. Sometimes, geez, like I was talking to an agency owner the other day, 20 million off just warm referrals and affiliates. And of course, that's going to be determined by your main payer type and your market, competition, all that. But usually there's a cap for everyone in the 3 to 10-ish $1 million range, and only when you get cold traffic honed in can you scale way past it. Because the pool for warm traffic is, think of it like a pond, right? It's kind of small, and you might be already experiencing this in your agency, where once you crack cold traffic, man, it's like an ocean. And you can just keep increasing spend and keep bringing on more clients. This is how the agencies that I've seen that don't have like state contracts can hit the 30, 50, 100 plus million. I've only talked to a few of the 50 plus millions, but they have cold traffic down. And the only reason they talk to us is they're like, hey, can you do it cheaper? And usually the answer is no. So yeah, it's just something to consider. And I know I'm rambling a little bit, but hopefully I've answered that first question, which payer type you should target. If you are a home care agency that's doing at least $1 million a year or more, and you are looking to scale, ideally you're stuck in the $2 to $6 million range, and you want some help generating leads, getting more conversations with the right people. You just want to make sure they're qualified, they're fresh, and they're exclusive, and maybe even want help on the sales process. You want a proven process that is working for 70 plus agencies with these 3 different campaigns, and you want help training your sales team on it. We can help, or may be able to help. You can book an agency growth call below. You can click the link, schedule a call if you qualify. And if you do, one of the members of my team will have a quick call with you and see if we can do this for you and get you to whatever goal you have. And that's what I love about marketing is it's just numbers, right? The IO in HomeCareGrow.io stands for input output. So any good marketing system, especially for brick and mortar, where it's not like nationwide campaigns, should be you put money in, you get money out. Over a time horizon, not immediately. Like if you have a cash conversion cycle of like 90 days, which is what I was talking about before, you put $1 in and then you get $1 out in 90 days. That may not sound exciting, but with home care, it stacks. So you put $1 in 90 days, you get $1 out. Okay. But then in 120 days, you get $2. In 150 days, you get $3 until eventually they run their course, which when they run their course, you've given $1 and you've made 36. That's why this works. But the agency owners that I've seen have the most success are the ones that have the longest thinking. The ones that are thinking about, all right, let me put my $1 in and I want to get that $1 back next week. Usually you're not going to have success because you're going to turn the system off because you don't think it's working, when really you just need a longer time horizon. But anyway, if you're that agency owner that is thinking a little bit longer than 2 weeks, and you're thinking about 90 days or even 9 years, and you're planning the exit to your company and you want to hit 50 or 100 million first, or maybe even, doesn't even have to be that big, then we may be able to help. Break. That's it. I will talk to you guys soon. If you do like this style of content, these live videos, if you're watching this on recording, feel free to just drop a comment, let me know. I will read and respond to as many as I can. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.